This order was unsuccessfully challenged by the appellants before the division bench. The division bench elaborately considered the matter and held that no interference was called for. The interim direction passed by the learned single judge was directed to be complied with by the appellants. As stated above, this order is challenged before us. We heard the matter at great length. The council on either side brought to our notice series of decisions relevant to the points raised by the parties in the proceedings, but we do not propose to go into such disputed questions, as the appeals now before us are only against an interim order. Any observations made by this court may have great persuasive effect with regard to the matter which may be agitated finally in the suit. The appellants contended that the suit itself is not maintainable, and the remedy, if at all open to the respondents, is to file an application under the provisions of the Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act 1956, for short, the Act. It was argued that an order for interim maintenance could only be passed under Section 23 of the Act. It is also argued that the memorandum of settlement is void and is opposed to public policy, and that there cannot be any judicial separation under an agreement except in accordance with the provisions of the Hindu Marriage Act. The counsel for the respondents, on the other hand, contended that there could be a family settlement and it is not against any public policy. Our attention was also drawn to Section 25 of the Act, where reference is made to agreements entered into by the parties regarding the amount of maintenance. The counsel on either side also drew our attention to various decisions rendered by this court and various other high courts. We do not propose to refer to those decisions, as most of them have been considered by learned single judge as well as by the division bench in the impugned judgment. The counsel for the appellants vehemently contended that the memorandum of settlement was signed by the appellants under special circumstances, and the first appellant is financially not in a position to meet the alleged obligations under the agreement. The counsel argued that by the impugned judgment, the plaintiff respondents have been given virtually the entire relief sought for in the suit, and the appellants are unduly burdened with financial liabilities which are incapable of being performed by the first appellant. We notice the force in this contention, but at the same time it is to be borne in mind that this is only an interim order passed by the court in exercise of the discretionary power vested in it in such family proceedings. Further, the interim arrangement made under the order only covers payment of interim maintenance, arrears and current deposit of school fees of the child, and providing a separate residence. From the impugned judgment, it is clear that there was a long and elaborate debate by the counsel on either side regarding the financial capability of the appellants, having regard to the fact that the order under challenge is an interim order. Without expressing any opinion on merits, we would only say that the discretionary power exercised by the court cannot be said to be perverse or irrational so as to warrant interference by this court. Stop.